All right, Taylor, tonight on Dynamite, I think the most memorable segment would be the back and forth between Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, building up their match at Forbidden Door, talking about their history, the stakes, and I think they had a challenge to get people to imagine that Swerve could win. um, I mean, in as much as that's important, I don't think it's essential, but I think you want to at least make it seem like you can give people a story to believe in. If it seems like that was part of their goal, besides just hyping up the rivalry in the match, how do you think they did on that point specifically? Did you come away yourself thinking, well, I don't know, maybe Swerve will win, even though Will Ospreay went to school worked at a building site outside of Wembley and dreamed as a kid of this moment? I mean, it's just, I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't come away, thinking that Swerve was, gonna win. But I enjoyed the segment. I thought they both brought, some really good intensity. I've really been enjoying this kind of Ospreay story arc with the Death Riders. I like how they kind of bookended it with Swerve at the end, just kind of pausing and looking at him and being like, yeah, Will, you really have changed. While he's got Moxley next to him. I thought that was a pretty cool visual.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ospreay, I would probably say Ospreay did the best out of the both of them. I think Swerve kind of did that thing where kind of stumbles over his words sometimes when he's getting really kind of amped up and hyped up. But yeah, I really enjoyed the segment.
So Ospreay talked about getting married, did an Ospreay thing about what was the phrase? What did he do to his wife?
Oh, what did he say? I think he said he pounded her. And
or was it smashed the life out of her?
Yeah, I took her upstairs and smashed her, and told her to clean up. I got to go to Houston, I think was the line.
Wow. I mean, I guess if you're not going to go on a honeymoon, you want to let everybody know, hey, it's okay,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so Ospreay. I mean, one of the issues with, I don't know if issue is the right word, the journey we've been on with Will Ospreay is seeing him kind of go from this world-class worker, known mostly for his overseas and indie work, but kind of he came across as kind of like a boy in a man's body sometimes, personality-wise. Yeah. Even backstage, like that was kind of his reputation. He was kind of like a dopey, immature guy who just was singularly focused on pro wrestling, but in a most lovable way, like kind of just dopey, simple-minded, but in a good way and very likable. And we're watching him now grow up, and I think it's actually important if he's going to be a centerpiece babyface top draw. Jason Powell and I talked about this on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast flagship yesterday. Everyone search Wade Keller in your podcast app. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and you can listen to Jason and me talk about this yesterday. And I think he has changed. I mean, kind of playing off the theme of Swerve, for the sake of discussion here, but more in a meta way, or a kind of business drawing centerpiece babyface way. I think he is growing up. He isn't losing the charm of who he is. Little kind of the little celebration of his talking about what he did with his wife, and then in a little strut and a dance. It's a little corny. Maybe some people would roll their eyes at it, but he's so just himself. And there's sort of a confidence and a lack of pretension about him that I think it works. So tell me, let's focus on Ospreay for a second. How do you think he did? Is there anything you would change? And do you kind of agree with me that he's keeping the charm of his kind of more immature 20-something pre-marriage self, but also showing moments in this promo of being an alpha? I mean, you kind of have to compare him to like Obafemi right now in terms of, two people this summer kind of on a track and obviously Will's been around longer, but on a track as fans of the product or the show or the brand are imagining them as the champion leading the company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one of the things I like about Will Ospreay the most is that you can tell the guy is in the ring is the guy he probably is in real life. You know what I mean? That just his attitude, like the way he is, the way he talks, his attitude. So to kind of see him grow into like this man, like he's getting married now, he's kind of growing up. He's always kind of depended on being like, the best in the ring, but that always wasn't enough for him to, reach his goals. Kind of realizing, hey, maybe I do got to grow up a little bit. Maybe I do have to change my style a little bit. These are the kind of story arcs that I like. Someone kind of growing into their own, kind of figuring out, hey, it didn't work this way. I need to mature and kind of do it a different way.
Mhm.
But he's, yeah, I think you're right too. He's also kind of keeping that, the boyish charm, like the guy you want to go have a beer with. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that's kind of how I judge people. It's, would I want to go have a beer with this guy? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think he's definitely
Absolutely.
he's someone that, I'd love to sit down in a pub and have a couple pints with. So I totally agree on with your kind of assessment there with he's definitely like he's growing up, but he's not doing it in like a way that's not believable.
He's a guy that you would just want to root for. Like, I just want to root for this guy to succeed. Like, he's not doing anything to undercut it. He's not super. I was gonna say he's not super self-aware. I don't think that's the right way to phrase it. He doesn't seem self-conscious of who he is or care how people feel about him. He's comfortable in his own skin. Um, but when you are comfortable in your own skin and you're not trying to be something you're not, and you don't even feel like you're marketing yourself, he's like, oh, my hair is a little bit better now, but I dress the same. Like,
Yeah.
he's so just sort of like nonchalant about the marketing part of it. It's actually, like, I think, refreshing and appealing, and it makes him seem genuine, authentic, and likable. Now, you still have to come across as a star, and you don't have to. I mean, you can be a successful wrestler, but to be a centerpiece drawing cards, selling T-shirts, on posters, there has to be some aspect, whether it's you or the company or your presentation, that feels like you're a big star. And I think he has an innate quality, and I don't think anything he's doing is undercutting it. So I'm on board with it. I mean, it's yes, the bell rings, he's going to have a great match and people like him, but is he word is overused, but is he a transformational drawing card for AEW? Is he somebody who can bring some new people in? And I look at this and go, he's not doing anything to turn off his fans. He's growing up, but is there anything he can do, or is there anything AEW should be doing to signal to fans the biggest star in the business that you want to root for, as opposed to the biggest star in the business you want to root against, or the biggest star in the business, period, who you have conflicted feelings about, MJF and Roman Reigns respectively in those two cases? The guy who's the biggest star who you want to root for. Can AEW market Will Ospreay as that guy? And I don't think they should just lean back and try to let it happen. I think that there's an effort should be made to do that. I don't have like the concrete plan laid out. That's not my job. But that's kind of the next step, is make sure that they don't treat Ospreay like they did Kenny Omega, as a guy who just sort of shows up with the clothes he had on at the gym, hasn't put any thought into what he says, like tonight. Or maybe he did and he just doesn't know how to make things interesting. But don't do that for years. Like, strike while you can, and don't define him down as just a good hand who's kind of a nice guy but bland.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I have had the thought cross my mind too, where like, if this goes the way we think it's going, and he, gets his crowning moment at All In front of Wembley, in front of his home crowd, I have thought to myself, I worry like, man, I hope that we're not going to have the Hangman problem where the chase ended up being better than the actual ring. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that will happen with Ospreay. I think Hangman and Ospreay are such different characters and have such different personalities that I think the fans can maybe get a little bit more excited with the Ospreay run, I guess, if they play it right. So that's kind of like one of my fears with it too, is that it seems like Hangman was red hot and then he got the title, and then it just kind of didn't really hit like everyone kind of thought it was going to hit, I guess.
There's some criticism in the chat on the segment. I have some critiques of the segment too, which I want to get into kind of in the next part of the discussion, but I wanted to hit a few particular points specifically before we get into that. Another one is, how did they handle the Death Rider alliance? Swerve said, you've changed. Death Riders come out. Ospreay drops down to ringside and stands next to Mox. Taz said, I don't know if Ospreay even wanted the Death Riders out there. He might have wanted a fight, but Swerve had the chain wrapped around his hand. It was probably smart to not do that if this is a real life scenario.
Yeah.
Probably made sense to not get hit with a chain and fight when the stakes are high and you want to stay fresh. So, but Swerve said, we still don't really understand, why you're doing this. You haven't explained it. And Ospreay gave the answer that, sort of self-evident, which is, well, my ground game is a little better and my endurance is good. I can't remember everything he said, but like, he just said, hey, they're training me to be a little tougher and having a little edge. Did Ospreay, speaking about it, kind of finally being asked and answering it, was it sufficient? Was it good enough? Was it really good? Is there anything you would have changed about it?
So I liked it. Like I understood what he was saying where like, you know what? I just had to let it go. I had to let the anger go. I had to kind of, for me to become a better person, for me to reach my goal. And he even said like, you know, I'll never forgive them. I'll never forget.
Mhm.
But right now at this moment, I have to kind of grow up and put it to the side, because at the end of the day, this is going to help me reach my ultimate goal. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about before with the character growth. You know, his way didn't work last time. It got him, you know, a destroyed neck. So, you know, he obviously, you know, Mox is kind of teaching him that, like, you know, don't let your emotions get in the way. Words are words. Can't hurt you. And like he said, they can't hurt you unless you let them hurt you. So I got where he was coming from in that end, where like,
Mhm.
I thought the explanation made sense to me. I thought it made sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it like a B minus. I mean, I think it was fine,
Yeah.
you know, um, but I think that's kind of what we're going to get out of Will Ospreay. I think the charm, and I think he should aspire to get better, and I think he has gotten better. Um, but you know, he's got to put. I think there's still work to be done with the presentation of his character, but I don't want it to be like polished and refined in a way that again feels like a veneer that covers up what's charming and affable about him. So there's a little challenge there with him. You don't want him to be too aw shucks. I'm just a dumb wrestler with a hot wife and a dream. You know, like you want. And so I think the Death Rider situation was, there was more of an opening there. I think if there were more people behind the scenes sitting down with him and talking this through, who said, okay, you know, Moxie can be one of them, Tony Khan, whoever. This is a big moment. They tried to paralyze you, kill you, end your career, hospitalize you, whatever it is. That was a really big deal. We really need to rise to this moment and have good material. And I wish Ospreay, you know, saying I haven't forgiven and I won't forget is good. That's kind of the B minus, you know, like you got to say that. But I wish there was a little bit of a an intensity in his eye, like that just was like, Moxley knows this. I might be an easy to get along with guy, and I appreciate what they're bringing to my game, but there's not a day I don't show up there and don't think about what they tried to do to me.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that. Like I wish it had a little bit more emotional depth and oomph to it than, well, I just want to let you know I haven't forgotten and I'm not going to forget. Like it just sort of felt like a line to get out there instead of something he was processing kind of on a deep level. Because this wasn't, oh, they pie faced me. I mean, this was like, you know, they didn't insult me. This was a big deal. So I would have liked more, something a little heavier with him. And then I also just would have liked him to go, you know what? As flashy and good as I am, do you know how many AEW world title runs I have? Do you know how many world titles I have compared to Hangman Page or MJF? Like, I needed something extra. And you know what's more important than my ego or my pride or even my sense of what's right and wrong? And make no mistake about it, what the Death Riders did was wrong. What they tried to do to me could have ended my career. But I am a professional wrestler who aspires to be the best at what I can do. And I can recognize in them, just as a lot of teams, a lot of players in the World Cup are playing with people they don't like. For coaches, they might not respect in outside of the field, but if they can add something to their game, they listen and they apply it. That's what I'm doing here. Make no mistake about it, though. I see them for who they are, Swerve, just like I see you for you, who you are. That kind of thing. You know, like I want them to just man up and kind of express more layered and more nuanced depth to what the process of this, because it's heavy, and AEW has a history of doing very heavy things and then not wanting to own it or even thinking about having to own it in the storyline. Oh, you invaded my house. Oh, you tried to burn my house down. Now we have to spend 5 months telling a story of how we're kind of crossing paths and reconciling. Like, don't do that heavy hotshot stuff if you learn how difficult it is to reintegrate it into the story in a realistic way before your sort of impulse is, wouldn't it be like the whole fourth grader thing I always say? It's like a fourth grader goes, wouldn't it be cool if we burned a house down? Like, yeah, but you know, you're adults trying to tell a sensible, logical story. So I think there was more there. And so in that sense, I'm let down based on what I can imagine it being, but I still give it a passing grade. Like I'm not being heavily critical, but I want to be I don't want to just say B-. I want to explain what I was looking for and lay it out there because I think it's in him and I think the storyline has it. It might be too late to cover it now. Tonight might have been, the one time at bat to get this right.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying with that. Like tonight would have been the night, especially with the way they kind of went through the backstory with him and Swerve. I mean, there was a little moment when it was kind of like a little bit of a character moment that I liked with Ospreay, where the Death Riders music hit. He kind of had like a little smirk on his face, where it was like, oh, like he's kind of like, oh, he might be enjoying having these, having a little backup here more than he's kind of putting on. So I like that little kind of character touch. Kind of makes me think like where they're going to go with it. Like the 2 months leading up to All In, like, is he going to kind of how is this going to go? Is he going to kind of get too wrapped up in it? Or is he going to like kind of, is it just going to be more of like kind of Moxley being like the sensei, kind of, teaching him the ways of how to get there?
And you know what? I mean, because there is a long path that you're talking about, there is a chance still. If maybe they have it all planned out, like maybe they might be listening or watching me going, wait, we're getting to that. Don't worry. I mean, like, honestly, this could be part of their plan. Just tonight wasn't the night. I think the first time you get asked by Swerve, who you have a history with, it should be the time you explain it all and show, you are not, you don't want Ospreay to seem like he's a pushover who's like, yeah, you tried to break my neck, but you know what? I need a little help training and there's nobody else who can do it. Like, you don't want it to come off that way, but there are plenty of opportunities here in the next couple months to have moments where Ospreay does push back a little on Moxley or Garcia or whatever. Like, he shows a little bit more of a spine, and you can imagine like Moxley at first being taken aback and then being like, hey, it's kind of what we want him to be. That's what we're teaching him to be. So I hope that they do take us on a journey, and that the training and the relationship is different now. We talk about, oh, you've changed. I hope he changes in the next month. I hope he changes by the time we get to mid-August, that there's something different with him in his relationship with the Death Riders than there is now too. But there is time for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. 2 months is a long time. If they're still doing the same kind of, the training backstage segments 2 months from now, they really dropped the ball there. Yeah, I'm hoping that the story really with him and Moxley really kind of gets a little bit more layered. With Ospreay kind of finding himself, I'm wondering how far they're going to go with it. Where I was thinking maybe they'd have Moxley be like, you have to be, how are you going to win the world title if you can't beat me? And kind of have, Moxley is kind of like that final boss almost before he can get kind of to the, or if they wait until Ospreay wins the title and then they kind of go into the fall with kind of like Ospreay, Moxley. So I'm definitely curious to see kind of how more layered they get with the storyline. I'm wondering if they bring, Alex Windsor in a little bit more now that she's his wife. Maybe he gets a little bit too wrapped up with the Death Riders. Maybe that smirk tonight might have been like a little indication where he's, might get a little bit too wrapped up with them. So it'll definitely be, fun to see where they go with it.
As for Ospreay showing something different, Adam Kidd in the chat goes, I mean, he did snatch Paperboy Garcia up. And that's good. Like, I want to see it. But Garcia is kind of the lackey guy who you would do that to. I did enjoy Garcia going, he said this about you. And then by the time Moxie's done going, it's only words. He goes, yeah, it's only words. But he's like totally humiliated. It was Garcia played that up well.
Yeah, he plays a good, his kind of character now of being like a dork. He's always been kind of a dork, but now he's kind of playing into it. I enjoy kind of him playing.
Yeah, he's totally, there's so many like movie characters you could reference who are the guys who are, I won't use one example, but anyway, that where there's that kind of crazy guy jumping up and down in the background, just, like who's total follower, but also puts his foot in his mouth sometimes. Ducky D goes, Garcia was great tonight. Okay, let's pause, introduce ourselves, and we'll get into some chat comments critical of the segment. We'll explore that a little bit. This is a Wade Keller Pro Wrestling post-show following the Wednesday, June 17th, 2026 episode of AEW Dynamite. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show. I'm the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter. Here's some of the latest copies. It's always kind of cool to see what the headline of the week is. I remember back in the pre-internet days, like people would go, wait, what's the headline going to be this week? What's the cover story going to be this week? And so if you become a VIP member, you can download or view the actual PDF of the paper copy newsletter every week and see what the headline is. We have almost 40 years of headlines, week by week by week, marching through the evolution and timeline of pro wrestling. And with a VIP membership, you can read my cover stories, post pay-per-view roundtables that are exclusive to the newsletter with the staff rating and reviewing, scoring the events. Greg Park's weekly column, Alan Forel, Alan Cunahan's column, Sean Radican, Rich Fan, and my writing. A lot of cool stuff in those newsletters, among many other benefits of VIP membership. pwtorch.com/govip. Tell you all about it. We've got a great podcast lineup. Commercial-free versions of all of our free podcasts are available on the VIP podcast feed, compatible with Apple Podcasts without advanced settings or a password, and also compatible with Spotify through a Patreon sign-up option. So full details on all that with the pay-per-view or with the podcast lineup. A lot of VIP exclusive shows also part of that VIP benefit lineup. Just check out details, pwtorch.com/govip. We are here to talk AEW Dynamite. We are live on the PWTorch YouTube channel. You're invited, if you're listening to us on the podcast side of things, which is most of you, join us live on the YouTube side of things if it works out for your schedule. You can find the link to the live stream in my TV reports on our main website, PWTorch. Just go there. Look for my TV report on Raw, Dynamite, or SmackDown. The link changes every show, so just go to the current Dynamite report, for instance. If you're doing it tonight, click on the link, or you can just go to our YouTube page and click on the live stream. When you are part of the live stream, that means you can join us in the chat and be part of the show. It's a really fun, interactive aspect of the show, and you are invited to join in the discussion. Adam Kidd, by the way, says, "Go VIP. All the podcasts make my week." So that's cool. And if you are watching us on the YouTube side of things, live or on delay, you are invited to subscribe to the podcast version. Just search Wade Keller in your podcast app. You'll get the blue logo and the red logo. Blue logo is our main podcast, the weekly flagship, along with pay-per-view previews, media Q&As, interviews, flashbacks, and going back like 15 years. It's cool stuff on there. And then the red logo show is our post-show feed that includes all of our post shows and also some flashbacks. So it's free to subscribe if you're not a VIP member. If you are a VIP member, you get all those, but with the commercial breaks edited out. And you can also participate by email. The way to do that is email us at wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. And then the other way to participate in the show is be a caller, video or audio only. You can turn your camera off if you prefer. The link to that changes with every show. Go to my TV report at PWTorch, click on the link, and you can be on the show. All right. My co-host is Taylor Halley, a PWTorch contributor on a bit of a, I don't know, hiatus or something. I don't know how to describe it. You got busy with some stuff, but I still wanted you to be in the rotation as co-host. And you'll come back and do some writing too. Taylor, welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, well, yeah, happy to be back. I was happy you invited me back. Yeah, a little bit of a hiatus due to some work stuff, but I'll be back. I'll be back soon. I was doing the top matches and top promos of the week for AEW. So I hope people in the chat were reading. So hoping to be back. I'll be back soon.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, and you had been writing about AEW before the hiatus. So that's kind of was your focus previously. So it's good to get caught up on what you're thinking of what's been going on. So let's go to some of those chat comments critical of the segment. Fan Blast said that Ospreay Swerve segment was, all caps, brutal. Derek Mitchell said, Wade and Taylor, I thought that segment was disjointed and Will's logic didn't make sense, questioning why Swerve didn't help him last year, but taking help from the man Mox and his crew teaching him. So what do you think of that specifically, and how do you react to just Fan Blast going, it was brutal? I don't think either of us thought it was brutal. I thought it went on a long time. I might have, if that was a dress rehearsal, I might have said, let's shrink this down a little bit. Let's try to get to some points a little quicker. And I guess one criticism before I throw to you would just be when they're talking about the history of Ospreay and Swerve, it was expository in a way, but I would have, if I'm AEW, I would have put a video package together that gave visuals and timelines to what Ospreay was going to talk about. Because, people have busy lives. There's a lot of wrestling. There's a lot going on. And suddenly it was, at All In, this happened. And then we're in this city, but what year, what date, what was the context? All of that can be covered in a video package with visuals and have Shivani or Taz narrating it or whatever, and just be like, or Renee Paquette, just by, on this date, this happened, then this happened, and then this is where, he made this decision, and that changed the dynamic. Then by the time you get to Shivani standing in the ring introducing him, you're like, whoa, okay, now I'm ready to hear these two address that. And it was kind of heavy lifting to ask Ospreay to do this expository explanation that in the end, I think for a lot of viewers are like, wait, what? Let me pause and think what was happening then. And when you're trying to piece together, and as Derek Mitchell is saying, make sense, is this logical or not? You're getting distracted from just being wrapped up in it. So to me, I'd say AEW should have put a video package together that laid it all out.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point with the video package. I think that would have helped, just maybe, because AEW's been doing a really good job at video packages, I would say, over the last year, I'd say. So yeah, putting something like that together, I definitely wouldn't say it was brutal. It definitely did go long. I had that in my notes, like, especially with the Swerve part. I was like, he needs to stop talking. We kind of need to wrap this up a little bit. But yeah, no, I do get kind of how people could kind of get a little bit confused what was going on. There was a part with Swerve, there was a part with Ospreay when he was talking to Swerve, like, I was laying there, they had broken my neck, like, why weren't you there? And then he kind of in passing was like, well, you did tear your MCL that night, so maybe I do understand why you weren't there. But you weren't there the other night. That other time you weren't there, so why weren't you there that time? So I was like, wait, what did he just say? Like, so he wasn't there. Yeah. He just said why he wasn't there. He tore his MCL. But then they were like, so I do kind of feel like, yeah, they could have maybe synced it up a little bit better. But overall, I enjoyed it. But I definitely wouldn't say it was brutal. I mean, they got to where they needed to go. And like you said, it was probably a B-. But they got where they needed to go, and I think it made me more excited for the match.
Yeah, and sometimes the details don't matter if you don't bring them up and say something that's illogical or contradictory or undercuts your own argument. But so maybe being more vague is just better. Just like, hey, you and I, there were times when I thought you would be there for me and you weren't.
Yeah.
And that changed the way that I looked at you and our friendship and our partnership. And like, there's just a way, maybe don't get bogged down on the details, or if you're going to bring up the details, make sure you don't undercut them right after you say them. Derek Mitchell in the chat said he's more upset at Swerve than the guy that hurt him and accepted the Death Riders' help. But in response to the segment being called brutal, Zach Barber in the chat goes, wow, I thought they were really good. He said, I thought it was nice that they called back to Swerve not being out there when the Death Riders beat him up. But Fan Blast said it was overlong, poorly conceived, and rambling. Yeah. David Bryant in the chat, former PWTorch contributor, maybe he'll come back when he has time also, says, Ospreay's subtle smirk when the Death Riders marched in was a masterclass in acting, especially for this genre. And boy, like, let's just leave that on the screen and let Tiffany Stratton study that sentence. Subtlety. We did not need to be hit over the head with cartoon facial expressions for every emotion you're having. And not just her, but she's the worst right now. So we use her as the poster person example. Anyway, yeah, Taylor.
To go back to kind of Derek's first point, with he's more mad at Swerve than he is at Moxley. I think what they're trying to show is that Ospreay considered Swerve a friend, and he expected more from him, and he didn't really expect anything from Moxley. Moxley's Moxley. The Death Riders are the Death Riders. Yep. So you kind of you expect more from your friends than a guy is out to get you. So if I can't even trust my friends, then I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the other side, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, look, what are we to believe as viewers is the Death Riders' motivation for taking Ospreay under their wing like this and training him?
For me, I've always thought there's some sort of end game with Moxley here.
Okay, let me pause you. I know that, but they can't say that.
Yeah,
right? Like that's looking ahead in the storyline. Oh, someday Moxley will go, you owe us. You're the champ because of us. Now we want a title shot. My point is in Ospreay's head, or the announcers who go, why would Ospreay trust Moxley? What's the motivation for the Death Riders? And if it is in storyline, Taylor, what you just said, they should say that. They should say, just have Taz go, hey, by the way, Moxley's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it because he doesn't like MJF. He respects Ospreay, obviously, when he's not trying to paralyze him and break his neck. Or he's come to respect him, or Moxley's grown up and changed and he wants to redeem. He wants to redeem himself for what they did and the way he can live with himself because he has admitted that he went too far. the way to redeem himself is to help Ospreay win the title. Maybe it's to soothe his own conscience. There's a lot of things they could play up as talking points. They could also just overtly say, don't mistake anything Moxley's doing as being out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing this so that Ospreay, if he wins the title, owes him, and then Moxley will know his game. He'll have trained with him, and he'll know his game. Like I just named 3 or 4 or 5 things they could be saying, and they're not addressing it. And to me, that's like super important to go, what's in this for Moxley? We get Ospreay. It might be a little flimsy. People might not buy it, but he's saying, oh, it's improving my ground game, giving me an edge. Okay, you want to be world champ. As you said, Taylor, they're not my friends. I'm using them to get ahead. But what's in it for them then?
Yeah, so I wonder if that's maybe what we're going to start getting over the next 2 months leading up to All In, where the story will evolve into, okay, now I have my title shot. What's next? Why are we still kind of doing this? So I mean, that's why when Ospreay first got with the Death Riders, I was kind of like, okay, let's see kind of how they're going to make this kind of work here.
Yeah.
But I think they have. I mean, I'm super intrigued. I'm really invested in it. So I think so. So far so good.
I wish the announcers had more agency to have a discussion in the framework of the storyline that we're having now. I wish when they went to them at ringside, it wasn't all just bullet point, cliche, plug, brief, kind of vacuous reflection or analysis. I kind of want Shivani to just lean in and just kind of go, guys, I just want to pause for a second. Taz, what's in it for Moxley?
Yeah.
Why is Moxley doing that? And I want them to backstage, spend an hour, like the 3 of them with Tony Khan and Moxley and Ospreay, sit backstage just for an hour, talk about it like it's like it's real, like not on camera, but Moxley, tell me what your character's motivation is for this, and challenge them to think it through, so that when the camera's live, the red light's on, and the mic is hot, they have thought it through and talked it through, and they can just explain. And then Taz can go, you know what? I've talked to Moxley about this, and I haven't shared this with people. But what Moxley said is this, or my feeling as a wrestler who's been on both, who's done some things that I felt bad about. And as I grew and as I got out of the heat of the moment, I think Moxley's doing this to soothe his conscience a little bit. But let's not forget, and then Excalibur can jump in and go, you know what? It's easy for Strange Bed. He'd use a cliche like, nobody's home. He'd be like, is Strange Bedfellow's result when somebody like MJF is so awful, it brings people together who otherwise, like, have a discussion that feels organic and then gets fans thinking about things that aren't just, well, we're just trying to get through the show and just surface level stuff. So I think it's an intriguing situation. That's why I'm exploring it so much, Taylor, right here is this is unconventional, and people are kind of hung up on why is Ospreay hanging out with them and why are they helping him? Let's make that part of the actual story. I'm trying to better word the story, but make that part of the world that we're experiencing watching the show. Like, explore that. Don't just gloss over it.
Yeah. And I don't think they will, but I do hope they don't do the storyline of like MJF, like, bad man has title. We have to get the title off the bat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're a better carrier of the title for AEW. Yep. Like, kind of with the whole Death Rider, we're here to save AEW. We're trying to get the best of the best. Like, I don't think they will. I think they've really hammered that story into the ground. But bad man has title. So I can't wait to see kind of where they go with it.
Another comment in the chat. Adam Kidd says, I thought it was as good as you can get from 2 guys whose promos aren't their strength, but they called back on history and built the match. And in a way, that's sort of giving an excuse for them to only do B- work. Like, oh, well, they're not very good. That's as good as you can get. I don't think it is as good as you can get. I think it's as good as we got. But I think if Moxley and Ospreay and Tony Khan and the announcers and a couple veteran wrestlers who really like to think about this stuff just sat down and just off camera, no mics, no distractions, leave the phones outside the room in a locker. Like, don't just sit in a room for a half hour, 45 minutes and just talk it out, flesh it out so everyone's on the same page. And then you can just extemporaneously talk about it in a way that pulls people in more. I think that's the work that you should go through if you're telling a main event storyline and you're leaning on 2 guys where promos aren't their strength. That means put in extra work in an unconventional, kind of out of the ordinary way. But and then he says it did call back on history to build a match. Yeah, they called back on history, but it was expository, and I want a video package. Like, just remind us of everything visually. So, Lady B has a comment. Personally, I could have done without the smashing the life out of Alex line. I'm sure there's part of the audience that finds even stuff like that endearing as well. Since she is an on-air character who's presented as a badass, I don't necessarily want to think about her in that light. I get that. I mean,
when he said it, I kind of went, oh, like, oh, well,
and
it's wrapped up in the moment there.
Like, I know, like 15 years ago, you could say, oh, that's just locker room talk. That's just a guy's guy talk. But we can't say locker room talk anymore because of a certain individual. Like it can go too far. So there is, with Ospreay, a charm to him being just a guy that you imagine being a football player who's just talking with the guys over a beer at the pub. Oh, I smashed my wife and all that. And you get a window. He doesn't have his guard up. He's not being phony on TV. Yeah. That's the positive framing of it. But the wife, I know it's sort of the way people talk, but like the wife, really? Like, how about my wife? Like, she's a human. She's not a possession. And when you talk about smashing her, I get where Lady B's coming from. I think it's something to think about, the pros and cons of. And if Ospreay's going to kind of grow up and be a serious person, without losing the charm, there some editing might be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of when he said it. I started thinking about when he said that line about Triple H and Stephanie. When I also had kind of the same reaction to that, where I was like, "Oh, Will, come on."
Yes,
come on.
Yep. Zach Barber goes, maybe it's just me, but I don't mind the unpolished nature of the promo. I don't want it to sound like they practiced everything they're gonna say. So I want to be clear, Zach. You don't want word for word things to be memorized. But in real life, if you talk with your friends or your colleagues about something at length and you get challenged on a decision you made at work or in life, or you're trying to decide what college to go to, you sit around with your friends and talk about it, you come out of that more able to talk naturally about it afterwards in a new context. That's what I'm advocating for. This is not get a typewriter out and type letter for letter, word for word what we're going to say. It's not that. I don't want it to be polished in the sense that it feels memorized and unnatural, like almost every NXT promo, where it's just somebody says something that's overly clever that they wouldn't extemporaneously come up with themselves. It doesn't fit their character, but some writer's really proud of the pun, or something like that, or the play on words. You want it to sound natural, but the way for it to sound natural and unpolished is to have a mastery of the situation and the material. But because this is a storyline and not real life, you almost have to bring it up to speed with how things in your real life are. And in real life, you talk about this. Should I change my job? Should I take this promotion? It's going to add work to my load. Should we have another kid? Should we get divorced? Should we move? Should we buy this new car? You talk about it with friends, with family, whoever it affects or whoever you trust. And then you end up being able to talk about it because you've talked about it. So you can talk about it in an unpolished but genuine way with more depth naturally. So that's what I'm advocating for and it's not like unheard of in acting for characters to be in character without an audience, without a camera on them, and kind of work through stuff that doesn't end up on the stage or on the TV show, but it helps flesh out a more natural execution of the script or the talking points. So that'd be my response to you, Zach. I don't want it to be polished. I want it to be natural and unpolished, but have more depth because they actually have put extensive thought into it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love the unpolished nature too, but I think sometimes with that, you kind of get examples of tonight where Ospreay kind of catches himself and he's like, "Oh, you weren't there because you tore your MCL," and then
it's like it's the first time he thought about it.
Yeah, and then you kind of get Swerve kind of rambling for that kind of last minute and a half where they really should have. Death Rider's music should have hit, and it just kind of it went on a little bit too long.
And I would say if you bullet point here's like 5 stages of this promo.
Yeah.
We're going to have this, then this, then this, then this, and this. And if one of the stages is, you haven't beat me in 10 years, I think he needed to have more confidence at the end of the promo expressing that. Look at him and go, you have not beat me in 10 years. Just because we're in Wembley, just because you worked across the street at a building site, just because that's your hometown. When the bell rings, the ring is a ring. and the fans are going to be cheering for you. I get that. They cheer for you everywhere. You shouldn't walk into that ring confident because we're at Wembley that you're going to win. You're going to give it your all because you always do. But I'm going to give it my all, and when that happens, I beat you every time. Sorry, bud. Your dream is ending.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, make us just be like, oh, God, that's a mic drop. Like, but it Swerve didn't, that crescendo wasn't there. And they kind of like stumbled and rambled through it, you know? So anyway, Lady B says, I love Will's promos normally, and I find his awkwardness at times endearing. For sure. That's hopefully, I mean, it better be endearing because there's a lot of awkwardness with him. I loved him most when he was open about his autism, for example. That clunkiness works, unlike with Kenny sometimes. Yes. Hopefully we'll get to him. Stay tuned, Kenny, if you want to hear us skewer you a little bit. And let's see. Adam Kidd goes, I know I'm an asshole, but I love when guys come up short in their hometown. And David Bryan says, I think some of the more sensitive things Ospreay says from time to time may have something to do with his autism. As someone who is also neurodivergent, social norms are a challenge. Yeah, fair point. You know, I mean, we can judge the end product and make suggestions, but that doesn't. There is a genesis to some of the things that happen, or a reason that it happens more naturally for others than it does for others. And those are things you kind of have to work harder to overcome, or it just is going to be a point of criticism that AEW is going to have to work around. But that's where it kind of comes down to, what do you do to support somebody who, and this is for any wrestler, who isn't just as natural as Ric Flair or MJF on the microphone. How do you work around it? You know, then it's production, it's preparation. It's finding a different way to prepare for the interview. Like I said, just sit down and talk about it. No mics, no phones, just talk it through so that you just have a mastery of the material by the time you're live on camera. Adam Kidd, to my point about just speaking naturally and not having it feel polished, he goes, I gave a speech at my son's wedding last month off the top of my head. When you feel it, you don't need to memorize anything. And that's what I'm going for. Like, if that is a weakness, just talk about it more. All right. We have a super chat from Derek. Well, actually, FanBlast just spoke about this. It's fine not to be polished, but realistically, two fighters don't just stand in front of each other and ramble about their issues back and forth, trying to figure it out. Well, when you have a 2-hour wrestling show, yes, you do. Like, there's a lot of things that don't happen. People who want to win a match and earn a title, earn status as contenders to tag team titles, don't stop in the middle of a fight and do a Macarena either. Actually, that's not a good example, because I think that's stupid and disqualifying, and I do not like it, and I think they should save it for after the match, not in the middle of matches. It makes me lose respect for Bandito and Brody King, who I have immense respect for in other categories, that they think that's a good idea because, it's a cool thing that the fans pop for. It's like Danny Garcia's stupid dance. It just destroys my respect for them as competitive athletes who are focused on serious achievements in their chosen craft. So that's a bad thing. But actually, two fighters facing off and talking to each other, I mean, I don't know. I'm that's baked in and accepted, Taylor. But I think we both agree it would have been better if it didn't take as much time as it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as Brodito did that Macarena tonight, I thought of you. I go, oh, God, he's gonna be pissed.
What do you? Yeah, absolutely. What do you think? Like, I feel strongly that I think people.
I hate it. I hate it too.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate the Andrade selfie stuff that he does on the side. I hate all that crap. I was excited when Brodito came back tonight, and then they did the Macarena, and I was like, I immediately thought, you. I was like, oh, man.
It's something my mom never watches wrestling, but if she did, that'd be the highlight of the show for her. She'd be like, Wade, that was so funny. But like, you're not appealing to non-fans who are looking for something cute because they don't like fights and they don't like pro wrestling. But, that's cute. Granted, if it's a match against two scrubs and they're down and out and you know you're going to win and you're just playing with your food, it's still kind of a dickish thing to do. It's sort of undisciplined. But it's less offensive at that point. Okay. Super chat from Derek Mitchell. Thanks, Derek, as always, for your generosity and super chats. Last week, I gave a PSA that AEW is on Tubi, Season 1, Episode 1 through 12, Season 2, Episode 1 to 53, Season 3, 1 through 36. I've gone back and watched Seasons 1 and 2, and it was good. To Wade's point last week, the crowds were really the MVP and energized. Yeah, I talked about that, Taylor, that it'd be fun to look back and I haven't done it, at the early Dynamites pre-COVID, because I know at the time all those shows are archived, or they're available on demand if you want to go back and listen to them, especially easily on the VIP website, all the post shows. And those early Dynamites, pre-COVID, it was just like whatever is unpolished and disappointing about the booking or the lack of elbow grease, as I put it, the bells and whistles. It would just point a camera at the ring and wrestle, and the weaknesses in the announcing and the weaknesses in promos and all the weaknesses and shortcomings of AEW, it almost was all made up for with those early crowds. It was just, so many wrestlers so many people who only watched WWE and TNA were not aware of were seemed like stars because in big buildings, the crowds were reacting to them like they were stars. And AEW's lost some of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those early Boston shows were insane. That's when I started, calling in as an on-site correspondent. And I remember one time I called in, and it was really at the height of like Cody and like the crowd just booing him, where he could barely speak. And I remember I called in, and you were like, "Hey, what did you think about the Cody promo tonight?" And I was like, "Wade, it was so loud in the building. You have to tell me what he said, because I could barely hear the guy over the speakers." I mean, it was yeah, those early Boston crowds were really crazy. I mean, I feel like it's coming back a little bit. Yeah. There was a lull there for a little bit with some of those shows were really tough. But I would say the last 2 or 3 times I've gone to the shows in Boston, I've kind of felt a little bit of that spark again with the crowd. Mm-hmm. Not like the early days, because it was so new and so fresh, and
bigger crowds.
Yeah, and bigger. Oh yeah, I mean, way bigger crowds. But yeah, especially when they have been running they were in the MGM Music Hall in Boston, which they're going back to again in July. That show was like the Athena Mercedes first time. Osprey, I forget who Osprey fought that night, but yeah, it was bonkers that night.
Let's bring up another comment here. Derek Mitchell says it needs to be studied because it felt like AEW was about to take over the business. Yeah.
I mean, Bloodline storyline hit, and then AEW kind of went down, and it just kind of shifted. I feel like, I just there
were wrestlers who were not used to being part of a week-to-week ratings battle with NXT, and in a larger sense on, just battling for people's time to set aside during the week, even if it's not head-to-head for Raw and SmackDown. And some wrestlers didn't raise their game. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega didn't bring it. Jericho did. Moxley did. Cody did, although he had his own. Yeah. Cody brought it, but I mean, Cody's part of the problem too with his, meandering and kind of weird promos sometimes. He could, obviously used an editor, but Kenny Omega he showed up like he got up from a nap at the hotel after going to the gym, and he put no thought into his promos. He just wasn't. There was I think he had an inflated ego, and there are certainly some segments of wrestling media and wrestling social media that made Kenny think he can do no wrong. He's a god, and if you don't like him, then you just aren't a smart enough, savvy enough fan to understand his greatness. Yeah. Well, what happened is crowds went down, and Kenny turned out not to be a draw beyond that initial core, who will watch any match he does on pay-per-view because they watched him in New Japan during his prime, and he earned that audience. And good for him. I mean, like it's not like unearned. I mean, that's like there is a core group of AEW fans who are going to order pay-per-views, and they were on board for Kenny. They didn't care if he looked like he rolled out of bed wearing Zubas or sweatpants or whatever and disheveled, and gave no thought to his hair or his look or what he's going to say on promos. And he just couldn't wait to go play video games. For some people, that didn't matter because when the bell rings, I'm there once every 2 or 3 months, during the early pay-per-view days. But that's one of the reasons that they didn't grow and they receded. It, like you said, it was Bloodline out to be getting hotter, but it also just was fans tuned in, and there was an aspect of pro wrestling that pulls them in, which is wrestlers who are good in the ring who also carry themselves like stars. Yeah. And a production value that shows that you do more than point a camera at the ring and just hope high spots and dives are enough to keep people tuned in, and people riding the momentum of their reputations from PWG or the indie scene or ROH or Japan. There was way too much complacency, and it was a lost opportunity. And we always talked about how do you get to the second million, and I don't say that anymore. Yeah, because they're way under 1 million now. Yeah, granted, a lot has changed in cable TV and all that. Now they're in HBO Max, but it's the live attendance is the tell. Derek Mitchell says, I feel like AEW's hottest peak was in 2021 after Cole, Danielson, and CM Punk all debuted. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to do a whole history of AEW here because, I mean, we can do large, significant discussions on this as Rye in the chat goes, what's the largest reason for AEW's decline in popularity, especially in ticket sales? Brand novelty, COVID, product quality? That's a big discussion. Taylor, I'll throw it to you, though. I mean, we'll get back to Dynamite. Does something come to mind as the largest reason?
I do think not just creating those stars, like you said, like the not building Kenny up. Like I always felt like Kenny should have been like their Roman. You know what I mean? He should have been like the big spectacle. He should have been like the big match time. Kenny comes. You know, obviously all the nonsense with CM Punk, I feel like really hurt them too. I just think not capitalizing in those early days. Like I feel like they even held back like a lot of matches. Like even when Punk got there, like they held back so many matches. I felt like in those early days, Tony was just holding on too long to just getting those big matches off the ground. And I do think that the Kenny thing, I mean, Kenny should have been the centerpiece of it. And it's obviously, like you said, it's a combination of him maybe not wanting it and, you know, Tony not having the faith in him. There was just a big point there. It was a mess with the Cody leaving and the Punk nonsense. I just think it was, you know, kind of death by a thousand cuts, I think, a little bit. But, you know, a lot of things.
Rampage, Collision. Yeah. It's just like Thunder, the third hour of Nitro and Thunder being added. You get spread too thin as a booker. That hurts. There were some terrible timing with injuries. The CM Punk thing, you know, was a mess, a debacle. I mean, it isn't just one thing, you know, but to me, the biggest thing was when everyone was healthy and motivated and excited and making more money than they ever made. They weren't hungry to expand their game for the new context of being a weekly TV series where it's not just about phoning in a promo, doing a catchphrase, having the hardcore fans who know you already popping for it, kind of that clubhouse vibe that it gave off, the secret handshake vibe. And then all that matters is we're going to go have a great match that certain somebodies are going to give 5, 6, 7 stars to, and that validates everything. They needed to be hungry. They needed to be a little more insecure and a little less, propped up and fluffed by people. They had a lot of fluffers, and it hurt. You know, they needed to be hungry, and so to me, the biggest thing is just in that early pre-COVID stretch, they needed somebody with a better eye for production, a better eye for storytelling. They could have used a better announcer, or the announcers getting better at their craft in making it feel like, for new viewers, this is a place you're welcome, and we're not going to make you study, as Cody Rhodes said. It's not, you shouldn't need shoulder content to understand what's happening on our shows. Everything should be self-contained in Dynamite. So, I mean, it's a big thing. It's a little more abstract than, if CM Punk had a better attitude, or this guy didn't get injured at the wrong time, or MJF didn't go off and, do weird stuff that undercut, he got too creative and all that. I mean, there's so many things, but I just say that first year plus, man, better production, better storytelling, and see things through the lens of fans who are not locked in. They're not ride or die fans. They needed to think about the non-ride or die fans almost exclusively because they had the other ones, and they just leaned on that. All right. Fanblast says, Wade is right about a great many things in wrestling, and usually way before others, including the fans and even co-hosts. Wade knew AEW needed to lock in and clean up the sloppiness, but they didn't listen. All right. Post of the night. Thank you, Fanblast. I'll take that, save it in the archives.
You pin that right at the top.
There you go. Yes, exactly. I used to say emailer of the week back, or caller of the week, when someone say something that's on the Blog Talk Radio days. All right. David Bryant says they were great at catching lightning in a bottle, and they were terrible at finding corks. There you go. Well put. So, all right. Let's talk about other aspects of the show here. We'll do it a little more rapid fire because we're, an hour in here. So we open with the announcement of who MJF's partners would be. I like this. I liked MJF kind of naming who his partners would be. I by the way, funniest moment of the show was Rocky Romero looking grumpy that he wasn't picked in the background. Like, you really thought, like, you're going to be picked last for kickball, dude. Like, you should not, like, how unself-aware are you if you think you're going to be picked when you're standing amongst all of those people? So I thought, I'm glad he wasn't picked. Obviously I'm glad he wasn't picked, but like, it might've been tempting. Just go, we need a guy to do the job or whatever. But like, no, if you get to pick and you're MJF and you're opening a briefcase of cash, Taylor, I want Okada, you know?
Yeah.
I want Kyle Fletcher. I want Jake Doyle. He's a badass guy.
Yeah.
So I like the segment. And they also accomplished a variety of other things, with more of the Callis assuring Andrade, your future world champ is not your turn yet. And then he kind of laid the lie down. He goes, for now, do the match.
Yeah.
And I thought, I like Callis kind of just, looking at him and kind of trying to be the guy in charge. So yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, I really liked it too. I liked how even like, MJF calling Kevin Knight, the best young talent, and then kind of giving a look to Fletcher, kind of sowing the seeds there a little bit more, kind of stirring the pot between those two a little bit more. I was actually wondering if MJF wasn't going to pick Fletcher just to kind of maybe just be kind of a dick, after saying that. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing there. But yeah, I mean, one day someone's going to have to tell me what the benefit of being in the Don Callis family is at this point. I really liked it too. I thought MJF did a great job kind of running it down.
As someone who advocated for a long time, maybe incessantly, the Don Callis family should appear on TV together as a group, because it never happened. Yeah. Like, get in the Don Callis business and put your whole family, your whole crew together and get them on TV. And they've been doing more of that. Obviously a lot of guys are injured sometimes and they're not always there every night. But this show, that's a big group. You need bleachers to show everybody. You need risers. I liked MJF running down the list of everybody who's coming after him for the world title. I think it was good to underline that. And kind of take digs at each of them, just very individual digs at Swerve and Ospreay and Hangman and Kenny. And then, the line about Mark Briscoe, hey, the difference between you and everyone else is they're all top stars. And people just feel bad because your brother died. And I'm fine he brought that up, but like, now it's time to not bring it up for a couple months, But it is there's some truth in that. He's on this roster because his brother died.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a good.
He's earned his keep.
I liked his little dig at Hangman when he started laughing. A lot of Hangman references tonight, so I'm wondering if they're it's all in season, so I'm sure he'll be coming back sooner than later. But yeah, no, I mean, no one does a good running people down better than MJF. So I thought it was I thought he was definitely on his game tonight.
MJF, I was watching him, and it's just like, this is a guy who believes he is the top star in the business, even if he's wrestling in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people on Dynamite. That's an argument against it, but I think he's working hard to do his part to change that. But the optics, and by the way, they filmed this building tonight. Great. As a little sidebar, like, I love I don't know if it was a camera on a crane or what, but like the way that they shot the big floor seating. They had fresh angles to work with, and I thought they made the best of the building. So compliments to them for that. It looked like a major league show, even though it was a ring against a stage, which always kind of makes it feel different, if not small time. But I thought they did a good job with what they had. And
I thought like the blue lighting in that arena that was kind of on the side made it look enormous. Just the way the lighting went all the way up the wall, I thought it really made the place look big.
And so MJF's doing a good job, and he did here. Looking like I'm in charge. Then Don Callis might be here. Okada, the legend, might be here. There's a lot of big names, but I'm MJF. I'm the biggest star in pro wrestling, and he says it, and he believes it, and it helps you believe it, and it doesn't seem absurd when he says it. So that was good. Moving on. Kenny Omega against Tony Nese. Apparently, before the show went on the air, Tony Nese and his crew said, we want a match. So Kenny Omega was dressed to wrestle, apparently, in the building for no apparent reason, except hoping some lower card heels wanted a match that Tony Khan would book. So he came out and beat him in 2 minutes. It was just a presupposition, a setup for him to do some mic work. And then Zack Sabre Jr. interrupts Omega before he even talked with Mikey and Bad Dude Tito, TMDK, and they joked around, I don't even know what TMDK stands for. I don't think they do either. And then Omega said, I didn't think Zach would come all this way to challenge little old me, which was kind of weird, like self-effacing. Why would Kenny say that? And then all we got to hype this match, very much in contrast, good or bad, B-, whatever, for Swerve and Ospreay later. All we got is, well, you know what? It'd look good if I had a W next to my name, and it would be good for you to have a W next to your name beating me.
Yeah.
Really, Kenny, you're paid millions of dollars, and you had all week to think about how do I hype a match with a relatively weak, it's not a turnkey lineup, except for the hardcores are going to buy it anyway. But if you're actually trying to get extra buys, really, that's the best that Kenny and the whole machinery of AEW Creative can come up with. And then Zach's there and he says nothing.
So the whole thing to me was really weird, where match ends, Kenny asks for the mic, Zack Sabre comes out, Kenny rolls out of the ring, he puts the mic down, then he goes up to the stage, and I almost felt like he was waiting for Zack Sabre to grab the mic and talk, but then Sabre kicks the mic to him, and then I got a vibe that Kenny was annoyed. Like, that was kind of like the way he was talking, his cadence and tone.
Interesting.
So I don't know if, I mean, I have to go back and watch it, but I don't know if he was expecting Zack Sabre to talk, and then he didn't, and then he kicked the mic to him and is like, well, I guess I'll do it. And the whole thing just kind of was a little off to me. And I got a vibe that like Kenny was annoyed or kind of pissed. It's just the way his tone, like he only doesn't have I mean, Kenny's very flippant, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I kind of got like a tone of like, all right, you prick, I'll do it. You know what I mean? It's just like, someone's got to talk. So I guess I'll have to be the guy. Yeah. The whole thing was weird to me.
Like, how does Kenny not have it just ready to go?
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was weird.
Zack Sabre Jr., star in Japan. There's, like, we're going to wrestle at Forbidden Door. We're going to show a lot of fans who haven't seen what you and I, I don't know. I'm just like, really, you can, well, it's a W next to my name. Like talk about him being a prick. Talk about him. Yeah. Like, get into, like, Kenny's got to think through the lens of the viewer at home and what's going to get them interested in this match and what's going to get them to care about Zack Sabre Jr. And part of his job, getting paid millions of dollars a year and all the environmental damage that every plane flight does. I always think about that when someone's only job is to just stand in the background, but they got flown there. It's like, man, that's like all the pollution just to fly them across the country for that. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm being sort of silly about it, but like, seriously, it's a huge effort to fly across the country, get a hotel, get an Uber. You're on TV and you can't on the flight come up with something better than that. It's just it's on Tony Khan and the creative team too. Sit him down and go, Kenny, let's rise to the occasion. He has recently, so now we can. Yeah. And now I don't know the full history between the two of them, but I thought I saw, is this the first time they're going to be in the ring together wrestling? Is this like a first time matchup between them? If it is, that's something they should be talking about in their history. That was kind of my thought too. I saw it on Twitter, so you take everything with a grain of salt. Yeah. I saw a couple of people talking about finally we're getting this matchup. But yeah, there's so much there if that's the truth, where, Kenny could just get the mic and be like, hey, you finally decided, took you long enough. You know what I mean? Like, now you're coming to get me when I'm kind of, on my last legs here. Like, well, guess what? I still got like a lot in the tank, so yeah, little weird. Yeah. And they've met before. So don't believe Twitter. Okay. Or whoever said that. Yeah. And even Zach Barber's like, yeah, I believe they wrestled before. Okay. So anyway, moving on to other things, because if they're not going to put time into their segment, let's not put more time into it ourselves. We had Tommaso Ciampa. Okay, well, actually, maybe I should do this chronologically just so we do kind of hit the things I want to hit, because they did after that a recap of the Dogs' recent history on Collision against the Guns, and then one-on-one Juice Robinson, Clark Connors match, and then beating the Young Bucks, which I'm glad they talked about it. I think, they emphasized it. I'd give them a B- on that. I think that's like even a bigger deal than they framed it, but it was fine. And so they're really trying to build them up. So they covered that, and then we had the angle later on with Edge or Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. They were lighting a match. They thought they were picking on some production guy, but but Copeland knew they were going to do that somehow, so he stood in as a production guy in a contrivance that I'm not a fan of in pro wrestling, and turned around, and then he and Christian chased them to the ring, and then they fled, and then they cut a promo. Copeland, when Copeland talks about his history, there's good and bad. The good is he has a lot of history, and I thought the examples were good. We were a young punk team like you guys, and we learned from the APA and the New Age Outlaws. I think it's good. There's always a risk that it's the 28-year-old high school quarterback showing up in the leather jacket, expecting everyone to still recognize him. Like, there's a little bit of, let's just move on from the glory period for you. I thought this was more in the category, and I'm sort of poisoning my compliment here, but I think this was more in the category of a good reference to history. But it's always a little bit like, it does seem in AEW that sometimes the WWE people are living on their WWE history. So I thought it worked. And then Christian, had his crude comment about their mothers, and I wouldn't smash them because you're named after their mothers. So what do you think, Taylor? Good or bad? Highs and lows?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right. I mean, I know it was a little contrived, but I thought it was a cool visual of Copeland, having the hood down, and then it was him.
And the announcer did say, Taylor, that they have a history of picking on production.
Well, they do that.
They covered.
Yeah, so
they
do that a lot on Collision, where like before they always beat up a guy while they're coming out. So it was a thing where like it just wasn't like random that he was, Copeland was kind of there. So I did like that. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes with Copeland, like I couldn't get past the way he was dressed tonight. But like I thought that was just kind of like he just with the flat brim hat and the hoodie and the band. I don't know, the Jordans.
Try hard.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he's always been a little bit of a try hard. Yeah, I kind of couldn't get past that tonight. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was good for what it was. He referenced like, we've been in the game for 30 years. I was like, oh God, don't reference that, man. Talk about beating up the APA and New Age Outlaws, but man, don't reference 30 years. You make me feel old. You know what I mean?
That's right. Zach Barber said the Dogs have beaten up the backstage workers every week. I should, when I say contrivance, I did say, but there was a likelihood they would based on the pattern, and that is fair. I shouldn't call that is not a highly offensive contrivance, but it would have been weird if they chose not to this week and Copeland sitting there playing around with some technology. But fair enough. I mean, I'll withdraw that being a harsh criticism, because it certainly wasn't meant to be harsh. Just it's still a little convenient, but there is enough of a pattern there that it makes sense. And boy, he was cool putting out the match with his fingers. All right, so okay, so moving on to some other things. So we talked about Bandito and Brody King beating Moxie and Garcia. It's the first time Moxie and Garcia lost as a team. This went 21 minutes. They did not provide context or backstory. I enjoyed the match, but but it almost felt like a Collision main event. Hey, you tuned in Saturday night. We're not going to give you a story, but we're going to give you a match. And so I would have liked a little bit more, especially if it's going to go that long. I wish everybody had a little bit more to talk about in terms of why did this match happen and what's at stake. And did they cover that you remember, Taylor? Or is it just, hey, let's talk about the match happening?
Yeah, not that I remember. I mean, I think they touched on it like a little bit after the match where they had the interview with Brodito. But yeah, no, I was shocked when they came out because I didn't, it was a surprise that they were back as a tag team. I was happy. I was a huge fan of them when they were
not as happy as Bandito.
Yeah. He was very happy. He was very excited.
a little dorky in his happiness.
Yeah. He was. I mean, when they kind of broke them up originally, I thought that they had maybe done it a little bit too early. I thought there was still like a little bit more story to tell there. Then obviously Brody King and Bandito kind of went off, and over the last year they both had
good singles runs.
Yeah, good singles runs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like to see them back. I like them as a team. They got great chemistry. They always put on good matches. So, I was excited to see that they were kind of back as a team now. I think their kind of singles run had kind of reached the limit of where it was going to go. So I think kind of putting them back together, freshen them back up, get some more wins under their belt, because they've both taken a lot of losses. So, try to build them back up.
By the way, Zach Barber says the last Omega Zack Sabre singles match was 2018.
Okay.
So going back. Another just back reference here. Derek Mitchell Super Chat goes, Copeland living off his past like Al Bundy scoring 4 touchdowns for Polk High. There we go. So Zach says, to our point we're talking about now, is it felt like the Brodito Death Rider match was there to set up Bandito Mox. That was the point. Yes, obviously so. From a booking meta standpoint, I'm saying, how do you get us engaged in a 21-minute match? You can't, and I don't know, Zach, I'm not trying to be hard on you, but it might seem like you're saying that addresses my point. But if it addressed my point, then it's something the announcers should have been able to say. And think of how ridiculous that would be. Ladies and gentlemen, Excalibur going, we've got Jon Moxley and Danny Garcia, who have never lost as a team, against Bandito and Brody King reuniting as a team. And you know why this match is happening? Because afterwards, we're going to set up a singles match between Mox and Bandito based on the results of this tag match. That's my point. You have to think of it through a storyline. And so often, this is a great example, a good example, not great, a good example of where sometimes bookers just think what Zach said. Well, the point is we got to set up something afterwards. Yeah, well, what's the point storyline-wise? If this is through the lens of imagining this is a real world, how do you get people to care about 21 minutes of action between two teams who don't just tune in and good wrestling is enough? And even if good wrestling's enough, can we make it even better by having a context to it? That's all I'm asking. So, Derek Mitchell with a shot at Zack Sabre Jr. I didn't realize it'd been that long since Omega and Zack Sabre Jr., but Zack Sabre Jr. is a Spurs offense. It's boring and too fundamental. Zack Sabre does absolutely nothing for me. There you go. Omega could cut up. I would have been harder on it if Omega said, yeah, we're going to bore people to death at Forbidden Door with your ground style. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So Tommaso Ciampa, I mentioned that. What was the point of his promo? Because the point of a promo is not as a heel to get people nodding along to points that you're making that matches the online podcast website criticism of last week's segment. And he's like, I admired you, Jericho, when you were the innovator, the world-traveling Lionheart who broke down walls. But the 2026 version, telling jokes with puns with a preschool attitude, that shows desperation. I hate that. I hated every last aspect of it. It sounds like The Fix last week with Todd reviewing the event, the segment. And plenty of other people, too, by the way. I liked it better than most people. But don't bring that version of yourself or else I'm going to stay home. But if you think I'm worthy, let's dance. The ball's in your court. Don't drop it. Okay, that's a little too cute. But anyway, they stood and knocked over his chair and left. That is a babyface promo of Jericho as a heel who we're supposed to boo because he's doing old, tired material. Why is Ciampa cutting that promo, Taylor, when all we're doing is nodding along and now thinking, yeah, I'm rooting for Tommaso to beat this lame pun preschool humor out of Jericho? He's been in this business a long time. Am I missing something? Is there... I'm open to an explanation, but to me, it just looks like Tommaso Ciampa's been in this business for decades and hasn't figured out what the role of a heel is, which is to make sure the babyface gets cheered when the bell rings. And all he did is undercut any reason anybody would want to cheer him because he made good points, and he didn't do so in an annoying way that made you resent the points he was making.
And this isn't the first time he's kind of done this as a heel, this type of promo where he kind of cut it as like a baby face where he's making all these points. I forget who he was.
Yes, it was an inspirational title match against. It was part of the TNT title defense series.
Oh, so it must have been Briscoe.
Or was it? What did he face Darby?
I forget, but it was one of those things where like he was making all these points, and you're like, I'm going to root for this guy. You know, like,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wish I could remember which title. Chat, help us out. What match did Ciampa have where he cut that?
Kind of the same thing too.
Promo.
Yeah, he was sitting in a chair. It was kind of this. It was literally like the same exact vibe, the same exact thing. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, this kind of whole feud is doing nothing for me. I just feel like they don't have anything to do. They don't have anything for either one of them to do, so they're just kind of putting them together until they can figure something out. Yeah, no, I agree with you. This is doing nothing for me.
Yeah. By the way, it was Darby. By the way, the chat's jumping in, so I remembered right, but without certitude. So thank you for backing my memory up there. Ducky D goes, Jericho is a heel. All caps, is a heel, but he's not. I mean, he's not supposed to be. So, but I get a lot of people feel that way about him, and it's one of those things, Taylor, where people think Jericho actually is a kind of covert heel, and he's going to make fun of anyone for finding this material funny. Like there's going to be this heel promo going, all you saps who were laughing at me are still singing Judas. My God, talk about living in the past. Like whatever, he's not going to do that. But the shtick, people look at the shtick as so lame that they think it has to be intentionally bad in order for him to turn heel. But I genuinely don't think that's what they're doing, and I think it's pretty close to proven that's not what they're trying to do, and that Jericho's just trying to reinvent himself. And I actually like it better than most people. I think it's for a upper mid-card legend doing some kind of playing the greatest hits, but with a fresh spin on it. I think it's fine against a upper mid-carder like Ciampa. I just wish Ciampa would have cut a heel promo, Taylor. And Zach asked, is there anything Ciampa could have said that the fans wouldn't agree with? Do you have any ideas what heel promo he could have cut? Because I think I can come up with stuff.
To go back to your point, I was also fully in the camp of, I thought Jericho was like going to pull the rug out from under everyone, but now I'm fully in. Oh no, this is just what he is, kind of what he is.
Ducky D says, I think he is literally a covert heel right now. He's thinking that's actually what's happening.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's tons of things you can grab Jericho for. You're taking time away from younger guys. You're back with like the same shtick you do all the time. There's a lot of stuff.
I would not talk about meta stuff in promos. Like, don't talk about taking spots. Sorry to rip on your ideas, Taylor, but I am gonna and I know I put you on the spot. Don't talk about taking younger people's spots. That's a good point that's going to cause people to boo Jericho and resent him. Don't talk about his shtick being tired, because that is a criticism. You've got to sit down and come up with something, and Jericho's working with him. Jericho, smart guy, high wrestling IQ. They should come up with something that Ciampa can say that fans will go, whoa, wait a second. I thought Jericho's material was lame last week, but you can't say that about that guy. There's or whatever. I mean, I'm putting myself on the spot too. I don't know what I would say to that, but don't cut a promo if don't have material that doesn't undercut the baby face getting cheered.
Yeah.
And I mean, he can just be heavy-handed and just be like, Jericho, everybody looks at you and sees you're a shell of your former self, and I'm not. I'm here to step on you to achieve greatness. And when I'm done pinning you, well, you can't spit on him because we already had someone talking about spitting into a mask. But you know what I mean? Like, there's just a way to just be a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, just be a jerk towards Jericho, where people go, well, Jericho's kind of lame, and I wish he wasn't. Hey, I'm not crazy about him being here, but damn, I want to see Jericho, return fire on Ciampa when the bell rings. Like, that's the job of a heel. Yeah. Not to get all meta on us and say things that people are nodding along to. So, David Bryan says he should switch out his entrance music to Judas by Lady Gaga. All right, what else do we have here? Mercedes Moné. A heel, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, I think, the way she retreated after, some back and forth action in the beginning of the match and kind of had a heelish demeanor to her. I mean, but with her, you never know. She just might not be thinking about that stuff, and just like, I'm a star and I'm a good wrestler. Yeah. And I take good bumps, and she got great ring gear. She always has great ring gear. She sets the standard for that.
Oh yeah. Great ring gear tonight.
Yeah. So Mercedes won in 23 minutes. And I loved at the beginning, Shivani says the match had a big fight feel. That silence was not a big fight feel. That silence was, who's Suzuki and how are we supposed to feel about Mercedes? Because I kind of wanted to cheer her, but she's given me reasons to think maybe she doesn't want to be cheered or she's not worthy of cheers. So they're just sitting there because of the ambiguity with apathy, and framing that as big fight feel. You got to save that line for your credibility's sake, for matches that actually have a big fight feel. And that I mean, am I wrong, Taylor, to say that's kind of absurd to say this had a big fight feel to it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. When you have someone in there that the crowd doesn't really know, and you haven't really done that great of a job giving a backstory, it's not a big fight feel.
Yeah. By the way, later just bouncing around here, Jericho had a chance to rebut Ciampa, and he didn't rebut him.
No.
You want to see a more serious side? I'll get serious with you face to face on Collision. I mean, I guess it's a hook. And so I'm actually kind of interested in what Jericho says to what Ciampa said on Collision. Like, I mean, maybe Jericho wanted this because he knows there's criticism and he wanted Ciampa to be the voice of it, and he has a really good comeback in store for us.
I mean, it's Jericho, so he could. You know what I mean? He's
Mhm.
he's one of the few people that even when he came back this time, I was like, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. He always kind of seems to find a way to make things interesting. You know what I mean? Obviously,
Yeah.
the learning tree was a miss, but he's got more hits than misses. So
Yeah.
I'll always give him more rope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To kind of see where things are going.
Yeah. So Doug Edie says, circling back to Hazuki and Mercedes, that match was heat rocks and the crowd was hot for it. Both ladies did their job. Zach Barber said, well, the crowd knew who Hazuki was by the end of the match when they were chanting her name. Yeah, they earned it. I'm critical of the announcers framing it in a way that felt like they were ahead of what the women did. I also think even if they had the crowd going because it was a good match, but that goes back to the first year of AEW. It's not all about good matches. It's about framing it ahead of time to get people invested in an outcome, not just invested in I saw a good match, but I care about the outcome. And I know it's a high stakes situation with the Owen Cup and Maya World won last week, so who's to predict anything anymore, right? You can have upsets or surprises, but I don't know. I mean, I think asking people to watch 23 minutes sitting at home, not part of the electricity in the arena with a good match, you're going to lose some people when it's Hazuki and Mercedes, who hasn't done anything to really. She's done things, but not enough to firmly establish that we'd be invested in really rooting against her. That's the story of the match, but I don't know. I would have liked to have heard from her before the match, or have the announcers frame it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, that's kind of been my complaint with Mercedes coming back, where she's been gone for 6 months and it's just she's the same. It's the same character. It's the same person. You know what I mean? She's changed her hair. It's just kind of like I just need more. Like we know you're going to put on great matches. Like tonight she probably had that was match of the night tonight, and that match was phenomenal. I mean, by the end of that match, I was like, this is insane. This is so good. But yeah, I just need more. I just think we're just at a point now where we're never going to get it. I don't know, but I just need. You've been gone for so long. I mean, even when she left on that phenomenal promo of her like looking in the mirror, and I was like, oh man, when she comes back, let's kind of see where this is going. But it's kind of the same old. I just need, especially with her coming back, and obviously it seems like she's going to All In. Maybe they're going to finally put the title on her. Maybe. You just got to give me a reason to get invested. Other than she's going to put on great matches, because we know she's going to do that.
Yeah. Are you okay with them telling a long months and months and months of a storyline of her collecting belts and then she disappears? And in Dynamite proper, there's not an explanation for what happened to all those titles?
No, I think it's absurd. I thought it was absurd when she was collecting all these belts, and then they never told you where the belts were from. She would just come out with 14 belts. I'm like, these mean nothing to me. She keeps losing the big one. She's in AEW and she keeps losing the AEW World Title. I don't care about the Copenhagen Women's World Championship. I don't care. Like,
if they had framed it as everywhere Mercedes goes as a world traveler, picking up, she wants to learn from different styles, but she also wants to ruin the night of hometown heroes. She has traveled the globe collecting belts and proving that she's the best, not just in AEW, but the best in any company she steps into, any wrestling ring she steps into, and she has the belts to prove it. Okay, that's implied. I wish they had been more overt about it and really trying to. But why did you do it if you're not going to tell the story about her falling apart and having to regroup, having to recover? This could have been a story of redemption. It could have been a story of arrogance. It could have been a story like with Darby that she burned out. She traveled too much, wrestled too much top competition, and she was obligated to defend those titles, and she had nothing left in the tank. I mean, there's all kinds of stories you could tell, but you don't not tell the second half of the story that you spent months getting fans invested in. And again, I don't know if it's, well, she's a star and you don't want to talk about her losing a bunch of matches. Well, as you said, Taylor, don't do the damn thing in the first place then.
Yeah, don't have her win them all if you're not going to then do the story arc. If she's going to have to lose them. So.
Okay, or win them all and let Pro Wrestling Illustrated write about it, but don't put it on Dynamite.
Yeah. I mean, especially where, she's winning all these belts. The story was she's winning all these belts, but she can't win the AEW World Title. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just too convoluted.
Yeah. Zach says each time she won a different belt, they told you what it was on Dynamite.
No, I get that they did, but it would be like, hey, like this weekend she won the, like I said, this league's world title. I'm like, all right, that doesn't mean I don't know what that is. I don't know how is that prestigious? Is it the local wrestling that happens at the Elks every 6 months down the street from me? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who these leagues are, these organizations are, or how prestigious this is, or what this means. I mean, you could tell me whatever it is, but
And then what does it add up to? What
yeah.
why is she doing this? Like, why does winning a bunch of regional titles for what is eventually I think for Dynamite viewer, they think it's a bunch of things that are like Evolve or a
Yeah.
step below ROH. Like, she's beating up on a bunch of minor league wrestlers I've never heard of. Am I supposed to resent her? It's like if a top UFC fighter just starts going to regional groups and just destroys a hometown hero and takes the belt. Like, that's kind of thuggish and heelish and dickish. Like, but they didn't tap into it. It just felt like what it was is, look at Mercedes Moné. I mean, this is the meta answer. Be a total mark for herself, collecting belts that mean nothing, but she gets to be a belt collector, and she's marking out for it in a way that people are rolling their eyes at behind the scenes. Like, that is the best big picture macro explanation for what happened, because AEW never told us anything otherwise. She just was a mark for carrying around a bunch of belts that meant nothing, beating wrestlers most people hadn't heard of, and it wasn't part of a larger story arc that AEW ever had any intention of following up on. They just thought it was kind of a cool optic thing to do, but they didn't own it or follow up on it. So let Pro Wrestling Illustrated write about it when they say she's a Women Wrestler of the Year. Don't put it on Dynamite if you're not going to follow up on it.
Yeah. And I didn't even really like her kind of coming back as like the wild card in the tournament. I felt like there should have been a little bit more of a story of her
Yeah,
coming
she should be
back.
the standby one. The standby wrestler.
Yeah, but I just feel like it should have been like more of a story going into it, where if you want us to kind of get behind her, I'm coming in to win this tournament. The last 2 times I've gone for the women's world title, I haven't been able to do it. I'm coming in to win this at Wembley. She's not the best baby face. She's obviously better as a heel, but usually when someone returns like that, they come in, as a baby face, especially she's coming in the tournament. It's kind of a redemption story. Same thing with Ospreay. It's kind of a redemption story. I just feel like there's different ways they could have done it than just have her come in as a wild card, and we kind of still don't know what she is or what she's doing.
Yes, I agree. Zach Barber goes, Wade bearing Mercedes. Some things never change. She had a good match, but I don't know. I mean, refute my point. I mean, it's like, if I go to the corner diner and the French fries are cold and over salty every single time, and the oil tastes like it hasn't been changed in 15 years, I'm not going to just stop saying it because I said it a lot. I mean, if it's deserved, it's deserved. If it's not, make your point that it's not deserved. I'm not bearing her. I'm pointing out that she should be a bigger star, but she should kind of, like, I don't know, be a professional who understands her job, her job description, which is to develop a character that makes people root for or against her, and not just have good matches and carry herself like a star. Speaking of which, by the way, David Bryant says in the chat, Mercedes has the wardrobe budget of a drag queen who won a structured settlement with the inventor of the sequin, and I'm here for it. And Zach Barber goes, David, you have a way with words. Yes. Well put, David. I miss his writing. My World says, or Ducky D says, my World is going to win Saturday, and at Forbidden Door, Mercedes is going to make her too, like make her a star too. AW fans appreciate craps more than the standard American wrestling fans. And he adds, I'm not refuting Wade's point, but I think we are underestimating the importance of in-ring ability for a bigger point. So I want to be clear. Mercedes wrestles a style that is dog bites man. That's it's the old thing in journalism. Dog bites man does not make the newspaper, because that happens all the time, every day, unfortunately. Man bites dog, that's weird. That makes news. You learn that in journalism school. Why does something make the paper and not make the paper? If it's typical, it's not news. But if it's atypical, people want to read about it. Mercedes is a really, really good wrestler. She has good matches. I can talk about it. It was a good match. what I want is to maximize that good wrestling. I want, out of respect for the effort she and her opponent put in, and in recognition of the TV time dedicated to it, I want it to mean more. I want it to mean the most it can mean. It's not undercutting her matches to say, can we please have some character support and promotional support so you pull more people in than just those. And I don't say this derisively. There are people who just want to watch good wrestling. They don't care about whether it draws ratings or draws crowds or some casual fan got pulled into it. They don't care. They're just watching for their sake. And I get that. There's a lot of things in the entertainment world. It's about me. Did you help me recharge or entertain me? But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how do you take the effort of people in the ring who are really good at it and not just appeal to the same 100-some thousand people who buy the pay-per-views. And we just had a whole conversation. Why is AEW receding in attendance and viewership at a faster pace than other wrestling companies more often than not in recent years? That's what we're talking about. Because it's not wasted effort. You have appealed to your brand identity, which is we have really good wrestling. We had 2 matches, went 20 plus minutes. They were really good. I just want them to bring more people in and get people to care more about it than just the people who are just going to already be into it. Zach Barber says Mercedes' entire shtick is she's one of the best women wrestlers in the world, and she goes out and backs that up every time. That's her thing. Mercedes isn't great on the mic, so the less she has to be on one, the better. You're giving her an excuse. She should get better.
Well, that kind of goes back to the Kenny point too.
Yep.
It's kind of the same point we're making about Kenny, where you can be great in the ring, but if you don't have the other stuff, it's not gonna help AEW kind of get to the next level.
There are great offensive players in the NBA, and defense doesn't come naturally to them, and then they eventually decide, I got to get my cardio in shape so I can run back and play defense. I need to and work harder than the person who's more naturally gifted at reading a defense on the court. And I need to talk to some of the smartest players in the game, some of the smartest coaches, and learn what can I do with my physical abilities that make me one of the top 10 offensive players in the league, and how do I become a top 10 defensive player? The greats do that. They don't go, well, I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to try. And that's what you're doing. You're just giving her an excuse to go, well, it's not something that came naturally to me, or it's not fun for me. To me, not getting good at promos like not playing defense in the NBA. Screw you. Like, play defense, play hard. Stop. Like Karl Anthony Towns, NBA champ, said to Anthony Edwards, and a few years back, he goes, it was after they lost a game and his cardio wasn't good, and I'm pretty sure I'm somewhat sure of the context, but he just goes, yeah, he eats at Burger King too much. He needs to take his nutrition seriously. Yeah. You know, and Kat does. Rudy Gobert is like the master of every calorie he puts in his body. He thinks about it. He thinks about his sleep. He thinks about, cold plunges and stretches. And Ant doesn't do that because he's young and everything comes naturally to him. But you know what? At some point you grow up and you want to be great. And you don't just do what comes naturally to you. So Kenny Omega, Mercedes Moné, step the F up and work at things that are your weakness that didn't come naturally to you, so that you can not just satisfy people who want bell-to-bell good wrestling and are going to defend you for that. Step up your game and start helping draw some money and sell some tickets. That's what I would say. That's what I did say. All right. Derek goes, Luka Doncic is an offensive genius, but he's essentially a turnstile on defense. Yeah, and you know what? Wasn't he smoking cigarettes in Dallas? That's one of the reasons they traded him, because he was just like drinking to excess and smoking. And it's just like, we can't build a franchise around a guy who doesn't respect us and his teammates enough to drop 2 bad habits and not just be a great offensive player, but actually be able to run back on defense and be good enough to help us win in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, it is a sports story. Fanblast said Michael Jordan was an offensive machine, but it's when he put on muscle and started throwing elbows with the Knicks and the Pistons that he started winning championship. Zach Barber said, I think we've seen enough evidence between AEW and WWE that she's not good on the mic. There's a reason she went to Mexico and Japan to train after she left WWE. I don't know what any of that means. It refutes anything we said. It doesn't. I'm not saying it'll come easy to her, I'm not saying that it's impossible. I think she's cut good enough promos that if you sit down and you work on it, I think way more highly of her than you do, Zach. I think if she actually dedicated herself to getting good at promos and also understanding character development, so there's not this ambiguousness to how we're supposed to feel about her because she's just a wrestler who dresses well and works hard in the ring, That's not selling tickets. That's not selling tickets beyond a base level that she already has. Although this is a good point. David Bryant says that's what managers used to be used for. Now they're used for, I want to say, emotional support animals. Yes, exactly. She could have a manager, and that would solve this too. I think she can be better. I think she can be average or better than average on the mic. I think I've seen glimpses of it. It just has to be something she decides is important.
She has done it before. I mean, she has cut, above average promos at times.
Yep.
Obviously that goes into, having a manager. I don't know, throw in the Don Callis family. You know what I mean? They need a female in the Don Callis family.
Seriously, I'm all for that. Shafir is great in the Death Riders. Like, it shows that can really work.
Yeah. It's obviously not just her fault. It's Tony Khan's fault. It's for not. That's where I kind of think what's kind of going on behind the scenes.
Yes. Fan Blast says I nominate Stokely as her manager. There we go. All right. Let's see. There's a comment on here on Luca. Derek says Luca was smoking and drinking beer and famously had a beer taken away from Michael Finlay after winning the Western Conference Finals in 2024. So there you go. Zach goes, I'm saying she worked on her strong suit, which is in ring. Short promos and pre-tapes are best for her. They don't necessarily have to be best for her. They're actually best for most people. Most people shouldn't stand in the ring and talk for 10 minutes. But let's not dumb down. Let's not create this low ceiling on what she can be by going everything has to be pre-taped and short. She can challenge herself to have better material, and part of just understanding what needs to be said fundamentally as a wrestler. Like I'm not just being hard on her. I think there's a lot of people who are good in the ring and they don't even think about how to sell tickets. They just think, did I get a crowd pop and a high star rating? And it's not good for business that's a mindset of so many people. Ducky D says, I also think her in-ring ability is what's atypical here, especially for a woman. I wouldn't call it dog bites man. The gap between her and the second best in-ring woman is larger than O's and the number 2 man. Yeah, fair enough. I'd still say get better in promos, even if we stipulate to what you just said there. Ducky D says, I think they should continue to lead the way by highlighting her in-ring domination while also working toward the stuff Wade said she needs to get better at. Nobody is going to pay money who isn't already paying money to see her, because the story is she's dominant in the ring. You need to get people emotionally invested in wanting that to continue or wanting to see someone stop it. Every week she should show up to TV going, I can have a good match. That's not a question mark. How do I get people to either be rooting for me or against me continuing to succeed in the ring? The good wrestling is a positive side effect. It's there. It is a positive that my matches are good, but every week she should show up and the whole support group around her and her should be like, how do I get more people watching me on TV and in the arena rooting for my streak of victories to end or my streak of victories to continue? It's all about that emotional investment. I mean, you can watch the Stanley Cup playoffs and not care who wins between Carolina and Las Vegas. You can and still appreciate what's the word when you're enjoying something through other people, like you enjoy something because someone else is having a good time, not osmosis, not there's an O word for it. Someone jump in the chat. Anyway, you can enjoy, maybe it's not an O word, but you can enjoy something just by watching other people enjoy it. You get something out of their pleasure. And I enjoy sports enough that I can watch a really good game without caring strongly about who wins. Vicariously. Thank you, Gilbardo. See, I haven't been in the chat yet, and then here you are to the rescue. Exactly. I can get vicarious joy out of watching two teams play, not really caring strongly who wins or loses. Once a year for the Stanley Cup. But you're not going to get me night in and night out to stop. I'm going to watch my home team because I want them to win. That's why it's home team, away team. So everyone's jumping in with vicariously now. Man, thank you. So, yeah.
And they had it too. And they, when she started losing those titles and every match, and then she started losing the matches, and she kind of every week she started losing it a little bit more. That was great acting on her. I think that was probably the most invested I had been in her since early NXT days, when she was in those matches with Bayley. And then she left and the momentum kind of stopped, and they just haven't kind of capitalized on anything since she's been back. I just, I just think that 6-month layoff was tough.
Yeah. Zach says, we'll move on after this, but I think Mercedes isn't confident in her speaking ability. I've seen her in interviews outside of wrestling, and she's more natural there than she is with a mic in her hand. Bianca Belair is kind of the go-to example for that, too. David Bryan goes, Mercedes was a highlight of the night for me, but I'm just one person. There's a lot more money to be made in making her the highlight of the night for everyone. Ducky D says, I love and trust Wade and appreciate the years of analysis, but I will never agree that actual wrestling is secondary to anything else in professional wrestling. So let me be clear. It is essential that you have good wrestling. You shouldn't be on TV if you can't hit a certain threshold of being good unless you're over the top charismatic. Like Jade Cargill, for instance. Maybe you let her be below par because there's something about her presence and her charisma and her the vibe she gives off, and you make an exception. But generally speaking, having really good wrestling is essential baseline. You have to be able to dribble a basketball. You have to be able to shoot a basketball and get in the vicinity of the rim to be an NBA player, obviously, or be amazing at defense. There's some players who couldn't shoot, couldn't dribble, but they're really good at defense. So, but you got my point. Like, I'm not downplaying it. I'm saying it's essential, and anybody who gets signed should have it. So how do we turn that wrestling quality, good wrestling, and now appeal to the masses? There is a indisputably limited appeal for a fan base if all you're doing is going, this is where the best wrestle. That's a loser slogan. This is where the big boys play. Eric Bischoff got it. Eric Bischoff got it. He was battling with a number 2 brand that was inferior, seen as regional, with secondary players, and everybody just wanted Ric Flair. WWE people just thought, yeah, Ric Flair's cool, but if he was a real star, he'd be in WWF. And Eric knew, we have to say this is where the big boys play. We have to change the perception. Not that we have the best wrestling, because the NWA, their slogan was, we wrestle. And it was meant to be this counterpunch to WWE, which is we entertain. We're sports entertainment. Yeah, be happy with 1/3 or 1/2 or 2/3 of ratings of WWF at your peak. That's what touting wrestling will do for you. So the marketing that led to Nitro taking over Raw was built around, we have the biggest stars. We got the big boys. This is where the big names are. And if AEW did that and had the best wrestling, which goes without say, you don't market it, you can see it with your own eyes. Of course the wrestling is better. That should just be, you don't need to talk about it. That just is self-evident. What you need to do is then market those wrestlers who are having the great matches to be the big boys, the stars, and feel like this is a historically significant place to be watching pro wrestling during the week. So, Ducky D, I'm just saying, I want to emphasize, I am not saying wrestling secondary. You can't have bad wrestlers tripping over each other, and I'd be critical of that left and right if that's all that was happening. As David Bryan says, it's not an either or proposition, but I don't want it to come across like I don't think good wrestling is important. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be talked about. It should just be baked in as a given, and then you go from there to amplify your audience. Zach goes, so what should the slogan be? I don't know. just tell a good story. You don't need a slogan. Trying to think. Yeah. All right. Fan Blast goes, I think in-ring wrestling skills is one of the most overrated aspects of wrestling today. The presentation is first, the story is second. It's Taylor, part of it is wrestling so much better than it was 40 years ago. Like, there used to be, like, in the 80s, like the mid to late 80s, you would think, okay, we have 4 or 5 4-star matches to vote on for match of the year. I'm not kidding. Like, no, that was it. Yeah. Like, house shows sucked. Everybody, Bret Hart phoned it in on house shows. Like, nobody was having, if you were having good matches at house shows, like in the newsletter era, the pre-internet era, and I want to talk more about the whole newsletter era someday. It's been a while. Everybody's just like, oh my God, I just saw a good match. I need to write about it and mail it out to all the other people around the country so they know there's a good match that got taped and you can get it on VHS. That's not the world we live in. Like, good matches are all over the place. It's like information. Chris Hayes wrote about this in his book, The Siren's Call. Like, it used to be having access to information, like in the old, it's like bookshelves, like a library full of books. Now everybody has access to literally all of human knowledge ever recorded. It's all there. So it's actually too much. So then the point now in the world isn't to find information, it's to navigate it to get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter and amplify that stuff that does. And when it comes to news, which is a challenge, understand who are reliable narrators of news and who aren't. And so I would say that about wrestling. There's no shortage of good wrestling anymore. So it's not that it's, Fanblast says it's overrated. I would say it's so plentiful, it's a non-issue. It's just there's
it's the extra that's going to pull people in. I mean, you're having, on a random Dynamite, you're getting the most insane match you've seen in maybe your whole life. Sometimes you're like, I can't believe I'm watching this on free television. This is insane that I'm not having to pay pay-per-view money for some of these matches. But it goes to your point where there's so much of that. What's the extra hook? What's going to make me get invested? Like Mercedes can have banger after banger after banger match. Okay, I know she's going to do that, but why do I need to be invested in her? Because I know I'm going to get the match, but sometimes I need the sprinkles on my ice cream. You know what I mean? I need a little bit extra.
Yeah. I mean, 2 months of Collision. The best matches in any 2-month period in all of Collision's history would have more match of the year candidates in 1988 than all of 1998 and all of professional wrestling. Like maybe not all Japan or something. I have to get my timeline straight on that. But that's why Japan got this cult following with VHS traders. Is, oh my God, there's like good wrestling happening all the time because they're hitting each other hard, they're working hard. That's where the word work rate came from. Like the rate of the work was not lazy. That was the default in the 80s. It was lazy. And they have bad work rate. They didn't try hard. They just phoned it in. And that's what made Ray Stevens special. And that's what made Kurt Henning's bump stand out. And that's what made Terry Taylor an up-and-comer. And that's what made... Yeah, I mean, there's just so many examples. Like every territory, it's somebody. It's like, he's trying. He's taking bumps. Like bumps. He's taking bumps. And then, they took too many bumps and then ended up with, issues with brain damage and stuff, but they didn't know at the time. So Derek Mitchell backing me up here says, Wade is telling the truth. I lived through that era and you could count the great matches. It wouldn't take long to count them. So yeah, Derek goes, Steamboat Flair, Wyndham, the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express had great matches, but they happened few and far between. Yeah. Fanblast goes, I truly enjoyed wrestling more back before there were 1,000 kickouts, false finishes, and long matches. I admire the hell out of these athletes, but I'll never care to see a star go 30 minutes with a scrub. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Main event. What'd you think of the 12-man 6-on-6 tag match, Taylor?
I mean, I thought it was fun. Classic multi-man. I feel like that's kind of AEW's kind of bread and butter, those huge mixed tag matches. Yeah. Everyone just kind of getting their spots in, Darby, even in a 12-man match, Darby's going to get his insane bump in when he got thrown off the stage into the ring post.
Just bounced out the ring post like a Super Bowl. My God.
Yeah. He actually kind of came up a little bit limp when he first jumped into the audience. He was kind of hobbling around there. So I don't know if he, rolled an ankle or something like that. But yeah, something weird happened there. But yeah, no, I thought it was a fun match to kind of set up the, this is going to be 2 rings, right? They're not going to put 12 guys in one ring in a cage, right? That would be a disaster.
Because you don't get to brawl around ringside and through the crowd and onto the stage. So I don't think they've said. If Chad, you've heard otherwise, I think Jason Paul and I were talking about that, I think, on the flagship. That we think they're just, hopefully, I don't know.
I was thinking about
2
that.
Rings is pro and con. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about that during the match. I was like, are they going to throw 12 guys in one ring in a cage? That could get a little,
but they haven't called it, they haven't given it a name.
Yeah, they haven't.
It's just a cage. So
yeah,
they didn't say double cage, double ring. So it's going to be weird if they don't.
Yeah. I will say, like, during the entrances, when like Kyle Fletcher and Okada and Andrade all just kind of walked out as like guys without separate entrances, I kind of felt like, I felt like that kind of makes them all seem a little less when they're all just kind of walking out like that. I just feel like, Okada and Fletcher should just never kind of just be walking out with a bunch of guys. You know what I mean? Just walking out with Jake Doyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. WWE would not do that.
Yeah. I also kind of liked Takeshita coming out in the white robe, kind of playing off Okada in the black robe. I kind of caught that too. I like that. But I mean, they gave Takeshita and Darby separate entrances. I don't know. So it just kind of caught me as like, man, I think,
Was
I just
this was this a big enough deal? Did they frame Takeshita in an official match post Don Callis family against all these Don Callis family members that he was part of, and it wasn't really about him? It was about Mark Briscoe and a title shot. To me, it felt like they should have saved that moment where they could make it about Takeshita being opposite of all these Don Callis guys.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I was shocked that he was one of the he wasn't a name that I was thinking that was going to be one of the five.
Yeah.
So I know they kind of I know they're like walked out as a family, but for me, like stars are stars. I feel like you need to treat certain people as stars, and especially a guy like Kyle Fletcher, who's like an up. Even Kevin Knight, who you're trying to build up. They're all just kind of walking out together. I feel like you went over. I think they went over 15 minutes tonight. You could have cut 3 minutes out of that match to give these guys entrances to make them feel,
Ring entrances is some people, when you rank, why do you watch a wrestling show? I mean, if they're being honest, it's ring entrances.
Yeah.
Like some people, that's it. It's the charisma. It's the whole production. It's the music. It's the video in the background. That's the number one thing. If you took, when you watch old wrestling, like where there isn't a stage and there's not entrance music, like World Class, didn't get rights, but they were playing, I Am Family for Iceman Parsons and Rush for Kerry Von Erich, and the Freebirds had their own song, and Gino Hernandez had Bad to the Bone. I mean, they got that. The AWA started doing that. You had Hulk Hogan with the Rocky theme, and then you had the Road Warriors with what was the name of their song? I've never blanked out on it before. Iron Man. So like that stood up. But what happened when if you go back and watch those shows, the main event, it's Nick Bockwinkel in the world title match. He's walking around in his wrestling trunks and boots with a white towel around his neck and no music. Yeah. And you're like, that's the main event world champ heel? And then Stan Hansen comes out. He's swinging the cowbell. He almost hit me in the head with a cowbell once at the St. Paul Civic Center, swinging it wildly. By the way, it's total sidebars. Look, try to find footage of Stan Hansen, any ring entrance. He just, in Japan and in the AWA during that run, he had that cowbell on a rope. He just yelled and swung it, and the crowd is just parting. The sea is parting for him, and there's no guardrail. So he parkoured before that was a thing, from the entrance tunnel to the ring, straight shot, knocking over every chair in the way. Great stuff, but no music. No music. So that is a big part of what people like now is that aspect. So, but that would have been a long. It would have. Taylor, are you willing to commit the TV time for all 12 wrestlers that WWE commits to Roman Reigns' entrance?
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yes. Zach goes, he was blind as a bat, Wade. Yeah, that's part of it. Is he couldn't see. He could see this blurry ring. He didn't see anything in front of him, so he just said, clear the way. Some of my best times were hanging out in Waterloo, Iowa with Stan Hansen for at least 2 years in a row. Just sitting around a bar with him talking wrestling. And
well, that's cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Okay, we have an email from JB from Detroit. I'll just zip through it, and that'll round things out. Taylor, if there's anything else you want to bring up I haven't, I'll throw to you for that too once we get done with JB's email.
Okay.
Don Callis must have been listening to the flagship today, Wade, because he took your advice and had a big portion of his team behind him in tonight's opening backstage segment and articulated who they are to the family. Yeah, I liked it. I just always say great minds think alike, as opposed to they listened to my show and did exactly what I said because it resonated. You can decide what's more likely. Coincidence or people in the business listen to me to guide their segments the following week. Number two, seriously, heel MJF is one of the best in the business. He opened his promo tonight being all about his title. It just feels more important around his waist, and it's not by accident. It's the intentional way that Mox approaches how he describes his title. Yeah.
Yeah. No one makes, I don't think anyone has made that belt feel as important as MJF does. He makes that thing feel like the most important thing on that show every time he's on TV.
As a teenage fan, watching Ric Flair hand over his NWA title after ring introductions or right before to the referee, he looked at it like he was handing a baby to like
Yeah.
like if he had to go away for like 2 weeks and it was like his 3-month-old baby and he had not spent a second away from it. It made me think that title was so important. It was like some of the things that guide my commentary today are just things that I picked up on in a different era of the business when people in charge of it, I would argue, had a more direct incentive between what they did and what they earned. And there wasn't social media, weren't crowd chants, there weren't star ratings that drove people to off course to what really matters. And Ric Flair looking at that title, like it's probably easy to find the Texas Stadium Ric Flair Kerry Von Erich match. Just like go look at that, or any Ric Flair title defense from that era. The way he took the title off and just caressed it in that is, and so when champions did that, Nick Bockwinkel's good at that too. The champions of that era were good at. There's other ones over the years who just treated their belt like just sling it over their shoulder, throw it to the side, and I've been critical of that when they've done it. So yes, MJF looking at the title and valuing it, Taylor, makes it feel like this matters.
Yep.
All right, number 3. Is it possible we get a TMDK versus Elite 6-man tag for next week's Dynamite on the go home for Forbidden Door, or will they want to save any Kenny Zack Sabre interaction for the pay-per-view?
I mean, I could see it. AEW doesn't tend to kind of hold that back. I mean, they're not really afraid to have guys put hands on each other before a big match. They've done that a lot, so I could definitely see them having a tag match next week.
Kenny did a good job highlighting the stakes in the Forbidden Door match between him and Zack Sabre Jr. Are you being sarcastic, JB, or did we not credit Kenny's content? Yeah, seriously, help us out, JB. You got something to answer for there, or else we do. I feel as though a Mox Brody interaction should have been saved for a bigger match or moment. Wouldn't it make more sense to have Moxley and Brody at Forbidden Door for the international title rather than Bandito? Granted, I like both wrestlers, but Brody King has been higher on the card and seems to be more over.
Yeah, I don't mind it being Mox and Bandito. I mean, I could kind of see. I would hate for it to be, Mox and Bandito, and then it goes, well, now it's my turn, and it's Mox and King. Like, if they're gonna do that, one of those two guys has to win. They can't, they can't keep having those two guys take losses, big losses like that. One of them's gonna have to win something.
JB says, I hope that Cage and Christian and Copeland can structure a good match to help get over the Dogs, even in their likely defeat. Yeah, I hope so too. I don't feel as though Mercedes has a ton of momentum behind her at the moment. I think I would definitely put over Athena in the Owen Cup final. Build her strong for Tekla All In. I also would have swapped Athena Maya World Semifinal from Collision to Dynamite for the Mercedes match tonight. Interesting, but it was good. Is there any possibility that they put Maya World over Athena in the semifinal and Collision as a feel-good underdog story with the passing of her brother? I think that chances are very small, but I don't think it's the craziest idea in the world. Taylor, what have you thought of Maya World, and what do you think of actually not out of sympathy or charity because of a family tragedy, but out of merit, that maybe she deserve to be this, whoa, we didn't see that coming, and the brother story is just kind of a good, emotional boost to something that otherwise would be deserved, or would it feel a little much?
I don't see her winning the whole thing. I could see her pulling an upset and beating Athena. I could kind of see them using this tournament the way they used Kevin Knight, while giving Kevin and the C2, giving him a couple like, oh wow, upset wins that kind of got him on the radar, had a couple people kind of looking at him. I could kind of see them using Maya World, kind of getting to the finals, having a great match with Mercedes, people kind of being like, oh, who is this? Like, kind of getting a little more invested with her. So I think kind of going the Kevin Knight route with her might be the way. I don't see her winning the whole thing though.
Yeah.
I don't think 2 months to build her up to like a championship match at All In. I just, it's not enough time to kind of get people.
Yeah. It's like an expansion team winning the championship in sports, like in the first year or two of their existence. It's like, you missed out on the journey, and coming close. That's why, even for Spurs fans, I think ultimately, they might, if they win a title, next year or the year after, be like, it's kind of fun to, in retrospect, a little setback to make us.
I mean, that happened with the Celtics. You know what I mean? They went up. They went up. I think it was 3-1 on Golden State.
Yeah.
Golden State kind of was like, okay, time to play. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like, and then, we came back and ended up, winning it. It did make it a little bit sweeter, seeing the young guys kind of put it together.
Yes. Were you rooting for the Spurs, by the way?
I was. I'll never root for a New York
I was
team.
going to say, I get that. I get that. Ducky D, by the way, says, rare JB miss in the email. Bandito is the right man for this spotlight, in my opinion, he says. All right. Ducky D says, Maya World wins, and I think she's a good candidate to take the belt off Athena and send her, Athena, off to Dynamite. All right. Let's see. Will Ospreay's with the TMI moment of the night, announcing his post-marriage activities. Yes. First promo tonight reminded me a lot of Drew McIntyre's heel promos, particularly when he was against Seth Rollins and CM Punk. The opportunities that he should have had, but he suffered far from for the greater good of other legends and such. He isn't necessarily wrong, but it comes across as whining and self-pitying. Ospreay also played his role well in not backing down and remaining more intense than he would have pre-Death Rider. Swerve even acknowledged it with "You're wrong, Will. You have changed" to end the segment. And I thought that was a strong finish. I thought Ospreay's body language was intense after Swerve was down on his back, and they had a good camera angle for it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the ending. I thought that was a great, even the way Swerve paused and did it. I really enjoyed the ending there.
Yeah, and just the Death Riders coming to his aid. It's like, yeah, you have changed. You're hanging out with the Death Riders. That's certainly there too.
Yeah.
JB says, I get a kick out of the conglomeration wearing shirts with black and white photos of the other members. I like Darby endorsing Briscoe for the title tonight. It was both logical and natural. It also reminds us of the upset win Darby had over MJF for the title, and keeps that upset in the back of our minds for the inevitable Briscoe title shot. And finally, who's more likely to cost MJF the steel cage match at Forbidden Door, Andrade or Kevin Knight?
I think it's Andrade. I think they're setting up. I think MJF's going to push Andrade too much in that match, and Andrade's going to turn. And cost them the match.
Yeah, I think the Knight story is built in without that. Andrade, even tonight, it's like, I'm regret helping with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, like holding Briscoe up. Immediate regret for obeying. So I think he'll be asked to do something and he won't, and then that'll be the finish.
Yeah. And and then even to the ending segment where Fletcher kind of standing in front of Kevin Knight and flexing, and Knight kind of pushing him out of the way. I think that you can kind of see where they're going with that.
Yeah. All right, Taylor, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I think we hit everything. It was nice talking with you again.
Yeah.
I'm happy to stay in the rotation. I love talking wrestling with you, and hopefully, in the next few weeks here, I can get back to writing, which I really enjoy. It's been fun. Thanks to the chat, for engaging with us, and see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Again, VIP membership is a way to support what we do, but it's not charity. You're getting a lot in return. pwtorch.com/govip. Support us, a small independent business. We're not just hiring random people to put up fake AI written stories or guess news headlines that turn out not to be true the majority of the time. But when they are, boy, what a scoop. Just if you enjoy our analysis, our approach to things, and the experience we bring, and the diverse points of view from our team, support us and dive into if you like wrestling history too. There is, I would argue, no singular source for more authoritative, oftentimes in the long form Torch Talk interviews, audio and transcript formats, some of the biggest names in wrestling, talking about some of the biggest moments in wrestling over the past 4 decades plus, because they obviously talk about their history. So really cool stuff. Just you can go down a bunch of rabbit holes and learn about wrestling history and see what I was saying about some of the biggest stories in pro wrestling over the last nearly 4 decades. So check it out, pwtorch.com/govip. And I'll be by Friday covering SmackDown. In between, we'll have The Fix, the VIP exclusive show with Todd Martin. So check that out. We're going to try to catch up with Rich Fan, who is traveling to the Knicks parade in New York and wasn't able to do everything early this week, but we hope to circle back and catch up to him and find out about the parade too. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again to Taylor, and we'll talk to all of you next time.